Alright, hello everybody. Hello. Still, this wasn't my plan today, so I'm a little ill-prepared. I was able to get all the tech stuff set up, but I don't have my G Fuel. I don't, my headset's not plugged in because I had to use all the USB stuff over here. So I'm gonna see if I can plug in my, my headset to the back of my PC to another USB port. In the hopes that that way I can, possibly get on some VC with some friends of mine while I paint. That way, it's not just all on me to keep you guys nice and conversed the entire time. Not that I shouldn't be trying to do that anyway, regardless, but it helps alleviate some of that weight on me. Alright, but regardless, how's everybody doing? Alright, so we gotta rid of all the little bombs, I believe. Adventure Pizza was here earlier. He said, "I don't Warhammer, but he likes watching people paint their Hammer Wars Hans, their Zimmers, and ham their sandwiches." So you like watching people live. To occur when I'm not at work. I mean, I streamed every day for several weeks straight, so surprised I didn't catch you any of those days. Then again, they were all Final Fantasy, so it's probably the real reason I didn't catch you. Hold on here. Oh, great. There we go. Yes, like I said, ill-prepared for the day. Yeah, so, this is just a sample mini right here. I got this webcam, I got this webcam, I got this DSLR. I got a bunch of stuff going right now. Let's see, it's just looking at around, nice and sexy now, ain't they? Nice. Yep, I am currently, so this guy's done. This is just a sample. I always have a sample piece, like when I'm painting my minis. This is painted by me, by the way. This orc was painted by me. But I always like to have a sample, miniature, like, right on the desk. Not only to showcase, like, in streams, because in streams, you know, when you're first starting painting a miniature, people don't know, like, you know, what talent level you're at. So if someone jumps in the stream, they're like, all right, is this guy like a newbie who doesn't know what the hell they're doing? If so, you know, maybe I'm more interested in watching somebody who actually knows how to paint properly. Whatever the case, I like to have like a sample piece on the desk for that, and also even when I'm painting on my own time, I like to have a sample mini so I know like the scheme, like so I can keep my scheme amongst my minis consistent, especially if I'm not batch painting, which today I'm going to be doing a little bit of batch painting. Yeah, I know this is random. Like I said, I was planning on streaming Final Fantasy today, but that didn't end up happening because the queues ended up being significantly longer than I believed they were going to, and I also had trouble getting past the launcher even, so it's not. It was a bit of a hassle. So, regardless, here we are. 1 second, I want to see something. Does this look better or worse if I take that guy out? It looks better in a way, but not overall. Well, let me lower the light then. Get rid of it's always the lighting. I'm never sure like what level I really need to bring it at. Bring out that full detail. We'll call that good. It's probably as good as it's gonna get, lighting being what it is. And it's occurred while we were short-handed, so I was working a lot. Then, right as my hours died down, you got sick. Yep, the bad luck and coincidences of the world, I guess. Alright, so, yeah, anyway, this guy, sample piece. Let me pull out what I'm actually working on today. In a way, it might be better to use that guy as a sample piece, since, that's an actual orc. An orc boy. And most of what I'm painting today are orc boys, so, hold on. Let me get a couple here. Yeah, I'm a little bit all mixed up with my minis here, because I played a game with my brother-in-law not too long ago, and oh, that one's not finished. I played a game with my brother-in-law not too long ago, so a lot of my painted minis are mixed in with a lot of my unpainted minis. We'll do that. We'll do that for just a simple batch paint at first. There we go. La di da 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 di da da di da di da 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 la di di da 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 la di di da da da. All right, we're gonna need. Probably won't use Corvus Black too much. So we'll go with Vallejo's Black for the boots. Belcher for weapons. I'm just going through all the current paints over here that I have all over the place. Because that's who I am. I'm all messy. Purple for the Death Skulls. Red. Let's see. Mixing. Just make sure I get all my paints over here. Oh, I'm not not that I'm too much all over the place. Let's see here. I finally caught up on your D&D campaign because I streamed them after work on the weekends while I was stuck waiting for a ride home from work. Well, I hope you enjoyed them. Unfortunately, there's going to be no ongoing episodes for right now. I had to shelve them because the streams weren't doing amazing. Though that's not the main reason we were doing it. It was to do them for fun, but as YouTube is kind of my current full-time job, I do in a way have to chase the views right now. I'm waiting on an application for my old job working for the Navy. So if I get that job back, I'll be able to actually do what on my free time with videos and streams. I'll be able to do what I want more so, and not have to worry too much about doing the stream chasing thing. View chasing thing, but I do have to worry about that right now. So, trying to make sure I have everything I need. Is this already opened? Yep, the seal's already broken on that one, so I think that's all I need. I got my black, my red, my purple, my white. Okay. Just trying to make sure I'm not... Yeah, okay, I almost forgot. I'm an idiot. Almost forgot Beastie Brown for the jeans. Alright, so we got lead belcher and everything. Alright, boom. Boom, 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 boom. And a sharp bone for the teeth. I always use like 9 or more paints when I'm painting my orc boys, so just trying to make sure I have all of them on me. I don't have my aggro shit. What the hell is that? I got one right here, but it's like empty, so. Right, hold on, 1 second. Alright, gotta open up a new one. Alright, so that should be all my paints. Got that, got it. Boom, boom, boom. Damn. Alright, so that's everybody. Alright, so without further ado, because it's taking this long already, let's get underway with the paint job. Now, first things first, actually. Because I made this mistake a while back, so I'm gonna see if I can fix it this time around. We're gonna apply the base texture with our Martian Iron Earth first. We're gonna do that first. Alright, so let's get that squared away. Alright, so Martian Iron Earth is those unanointed. It is not really a paint. It's called a technical paint, but what it is it's a texture paint. So basically, it's a paste that once it dries, it creates a cracking effect on whatever it's based on. So it's more of a clay. So when you apply it, it's very thick. It's very goopy. It's not like paint. Paint, you don't thin this stuff, really. At least I don't. I don't know anybody who really does. with the technical paint of Martian Iron Earth, because you want that thick gloopiness. Because wherever you apply it thickly, it's gonna apply properly. It's gonna apply cracks and definition to your terrain. So most of my orc bases, you guys will notice, are probably not gonna have a lot of detail. Some of them I didn't even put like sand or anything on them for detail. That's mainly because of the aesthetic of Martian Iron Earth being very, deserty, very bland. That's like the idea. With my Tyranids, I do give them like a purple base because the idea is they're on a very alien planet with a very alien fauna. Obviously not their own homeworld, but my Cornate Demons, I give them. I'll show you guys in a second. My Cornate Demons. My Cornate Tyranids. Not my Cornate Demons. I have a Corn Demon army I'm trying to put together, but that's like my smallest army so far. Okay. Let's get that nice and gloopy. Yeah, by the way, rule of thumb when using a technical paint, do not use a brush that you use regularly, because whether you like wash them off thoroughly or not every time, unfortunately technical paints really, especially Martian Iron Earth and some of the other like base texture paints from Citadel, really fuck up your they really fuck up your brush. So always apply with a throwaway brush or a brush that you don't use that often. That's always my my tip with technical paints. There we go. Sorry, I couldn't see that very well. It's very hard for me to work around. Alright, so let me see if I can do this in a way that you guys can see properly. So this guy will be a better sample. It's been a while since I've had to do this on camera, so worrying about what you guys can and can't see is what I'm trying to remember. So just call me out on it if that happens a little too much. It's like, hey, we can't see what you're doing. It's like, okay, tell me, and I'll do my best to avoid the mistake best I can. Yeah, some people say do this part last, the applying the thick goopy texture paint. I do it first because a lot of the because when I always glue my orcs or whatever I have for like an army, for example, I always glue those to the base directly first. So when I apply this texture to the circular base, my mini is on there and I'm going to get his feet. So when I go in for the detail painting and I'm like detailing and I'm like painting his boots like black, I don't want, it looks very weird if what's supposed to be like a sandy desert is kind of pastily on his boots. So I tend to avoid that best I can. Alright, so we will do, this will be my Martian Iron Earth cup. Yeah, so apply that nice and evenly, although I'm not sure that's even. Let's see. Will this do anything? Oh, hold on. I just want to test something. Trying to, because it's the also not trying to throw it off too much. It's probably better if I just stick to that. There we go. Yeah, because it's for me, like, my issue right now is the color is not really, there's too much, the shadows are very strong in the background stuff, so I don't know how to fix that. Well, I kind of do. Hold on. Let me try this. I doubt this will do it. This might have the opposite effect, actually, but I don't have much of a choice. No, it's not really helping. Ah, God, the lighting is always a pain in my ass. Hey, Lightning, and hey, Lightning Lunatic, how you doing? How are you doing? Zoid Industries, Ball, what's up? Welcome, guys. Won't be chatting much because I'm not sure my phone's battery will last the stream, so I'll watch on my TV. Yeah, that's perfectly fine, Zoid. I'm just happy to know you're watching me and supporting me. That's more than generous enough, I'm sure. Yeah, because for me, like, I have so many lights going right now. It's like, this is so bright, but, like, on camera, it's like, the color depth is not like what I'm actually seeing with my physical eyes, so I never know. Hold on, let me switch to TV. Does that do anything? Crops the damn thing. That didn't do anything good. Nope. Yeah. What about that? Nope. Yeah, we're just gonna stick with that because I don't know how to fix like the color depth issue with the DSLR. Yeah, turning that off doesn't help. So I don't know. The critique of the character war from the story I'm working on. Well, I usually make a lot of sense, like I don't go out of my way to sound like make no sense. Yeah, not long ago. WAAAGH, yep. Smacks the like button with gluttony. I appreciate you smacking it with gluttony. Appreciate it immensely. Alright. Let's get these. Fortunately, some of these are dusty too, so that doesn't help. There you go. There we are, nice and evenly applied. Strong desert wasteland vibes. That's what we go for indeed. Hold on. Maybe I can do something on the computer end to help with the color. That helped a little bit. Unfortunately, it helped the background look more. Yeah, this is the last thing I'm gonna try and do to fix up a little bit of the color. Oh, that helped. That helped a little bit right there. Helped a wee bit. That did. That's the last thing I'm gonna do to try and play with it. I'll look up like some suggestions people have for streaming miniature painting, stuff like that, to maintain the color depth without the shadows getting emphasized too much. There we go. The longer you can put off till any blue spells, the better. Okay. Nice. Good to hear you unlock Sage. How you enjoying Sage? Yeah, I've been enjoying Reaper pretty immensely. There we go. And last one. What we gotta do right now. Classic Orcs Boys kit? Yeah. I don't have any of the new set from the Combat Patrol that they released. I haven't bought any new GW stuff in a long time. And I don't intend to, so. If you guys remember, for those who weren't around back during my Back when I was a 40K content creator, I lambasted that company. I am I'm very much, I love 40K. I hate the people who make it. Well, hate's a strong word. I don't respect them in any way, shape, or form, and they do a lot of shady stuff. I mean, the sad thing is we're in this weird fucked up timeline where Blizzard has done more fucked up shit than them, by a significant margin, but they're kind of they're very much a corporate. They're very much a corporate body now. GW is anyway. So yeah, generally I'm not the guy you want to go to if you want to just hear praises for every single aspect of the hobby. I'm the guy to go to when you want like to talk about lore and enjoy lore conversations. If you want to talk about old lore in particular, 30K stuff, very strong opinions about 30K. But with like all the modern stuff, I'm like the last person you want to go to. If you want like a positive conversation. Most of it would just be me shitting on the writing. There we are. Hold on. Am I zoomed in? Yeah, I'm zoomed in quite a bit as well. Let me do that for you guys. That way it's not all crazy. So we applied the bases. Those won't take long to dry. Technical paints very rarely take a long time to dry. And that means we can actually get on to the proper stuff. Actually, hold on. I have an idea. Did I do anything? Nope. I know it's more than likely something to do with the lighting that'll help with the color depth, but couldn't tell you what the best option would be. Okay, no, that doesn't help it. Anyway. Hey, Debino. How you doing, man? Not the biggest fan of Gab Thorpe stuff. Aaron Dembski Bowden and Gab Thorpe are probably the writers when I see their name on 40K stuff. And with ADB, some of it has been good, and some of it I really hate. So with him, it's more of a coin toss. But with Gab Thorpe, generally, I don't expect to enjoy what I'm about to read if it's related to Gab Thorpe. Typically, no offense to him as a person. It's just criticism of his writing style is certainly not one for me. So we're gonna finish painting this orc boy right here. Move these guys over to dry. That's my sample orc boy. Oh, let me get up nice and close here. Yeah, there he is. In all his detailed glory. He's got that wicked booty. That's like this is a more in-depth look at a boy. That's definitely Alright. Boom. Alright. Refocus the camera. There we are. Alright. Vroom vroom, indeed. Vroom vroom. Alright, so got the skin on and that's it. Okay. So next big thing would be Here's the brownie bits. Just because the white part of that light is what's bothering me. Well, shake it up a little bit more. It was a bit liquidy. Still a little bit, but more manageable. Just wrapping up some presents and listening to the stream. Nice, nice. You're already in the present wrapping. Yeah, I have no wrapping. I have new wrapping paper. The family does somewhere, but I personally do not, in my position, currently have the wrapping paper necessary to wrap the gifts for my family. So, gotta track that down at some point. Actually, there is one thing I want to try real quick. It just occurred to me. It's gonna, in my opinion, it's gonna be, it might work. It might work. Hold on, you're about to lose your guys' view for a second here. This is an idea that just occurred to me that should work. At least for, maybe not for color depth, for some other aspects. Okay. Well. Alright, plug that one in first. Technical difficulties. My old desktop got rearranged. Great. There it is. Should be the magic button. That'll plug back in. There we go. Alright. That's weird. There we go. I switched to 4K, so with any luck, that'll be what the doctor ordered, or at least part of it. Yeah, the frame rate's gonna be lower, but hopefully the details preserved a bit more. Alright, let me know if you guys valued that frame rate more than you valued the detail resolution. Or I will switch it back if so. Hey Gabriel Ekstrom, how you doing, man? Welcome back, Adamantium Pizza. I'm back up to 6,000 points of Vilka Fenrica. Now almost great company. Nice. I'm assuming you're 3D printing those off, right? Good, good. I thought it's good to double check. It's good to double check. That is all. Wasn't sure if you'd be giving them your money again. I'd have to tease you about that. I'm gonna have to reapply some of the skin green because I knocked it a couple times. So at this point, I'm just gonna quit trying to do this messiness. Realistically, I probably should have done the brown first. Being honest with myself, because it covers more area than the green skin did. I don't know why I did the green skin first last time when I last painted this. All right, there we go. There he is. Alright. Okay. Is there... Just trying to make sure. Details as good as it can be. Hey Silver, long time no see. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? So now that I've got that messiness out of the way, I'll apply the brown to the other orcs while that dries. There he is. And again, we're looking for basically this. This is my standard Orc Boy set. This is the Death Skulls purple I go for the theme. So that's the primary. I like to give like an overall like leathery orc look, orky like leathery look for like the rest of. I know there are quite a few orc players outside of myself who really like to go to town with the color. Like they really like to go to town, so they end up painting like this whole. Pretty much everything I paint brown, they paint the color. Like they paint yellow for bad moons, black for goths, purple or blue for death skulls. Kind of a tannish color, kind of probably a Xandri dust mix for the snake bites, and for the bootleggers. I don't really know if they have a color necessarily attached to them. Red for the evil sons. You know, there's a bunch of different orc clans. I recommend if you don't know the lore. I actually did a video that's now up. My old 40k in a nutshell on the orcs. The only clan I couldn't fit into the video to mention was the Bad Moons, so I felt bad for the Bad Mooners. It's like, I'm sorry I didn't mention you guys. I forgot. Well, it's not that I forgot. I couldn't fit. I couldn't fit it in the video. But yeah, this is the general aesthetic. and so is that. So I like to do like the smaller details to kind of showcase where the orcs are from in their culture. It should be a bit of the culture. Trying to keep it right there. Also trying not to strain my back too much here, so I'm like an old man, trying to go easy on myself, trying not to damage my careful visage. Yes. Actually, hold on, let me do you guys a favor, because in the gaps where I'm not talking, I don't want it to be just like silence in here. Background music, there we go. I'll put on my, let me know if it's too loud, too quiet, but let me put on one of my songs that I made for you guys. There we go. Alright, we're gonna start. One thing I always love about when you first start painting minis is how messy you can be with the first color. Because if you do like hit like parts that are gonna be a different color, you're gonna paint over that. So it's kind of like that mentality of whatever's on the base is what you can be the messiest and like least caring about. So this brown, which I should have started with this orc, but instead I started with his green skin, which wasn't wise. So yep. Let's see. Let's try to make sure. Get it all leathered up. You know, leathered. That's every part I wanted to get. Yeah, for the most part. Alright, so that's all the brown applied. No Way Home at some point? Probably at some point. It's one of the few movies I was looking forward to when it came out. That's why I like to airbrush the base colors. I don't do an airbrush. I don't have an airbrush, is a more correct way to put it. And I don't have the money for an airbrush right now. So that ain't happening. Let's see. Alright, so we're going to let that dry. Set that guy aside. Get the next one up to bat. That should be you. You're the next driest. The base color. Alright, there he is. All shadowy and mysterious. Alright, you're up next for the browning. Yeah, for anyone wondering what paints I'm using, just feel free to ask at any point, and I'll go through like all the ones I use and for what. Right now I'm using Vallejo's Beastie Brown, which comes in their game paint set. It's probably my favorite brown to use as kind of like a leather or like a really deeper brown kind of fabric color. I don't really use it. I lighten it up for other things, for like fur and stuff. It's a really versatile brown. And the best part about Vallejo paints is just how smooth they always seem to come out. They're very... Vallejo's probably my favorite like miniature painting brand out there. Miniature paint brand, I should say. Not painting, but paint. Yeah, for the skin, I don't do the standard WAAAGH flesh tone or WAAAGH flesh. I'm not sure which it is. What the normal orc base like skin color paint is usually or typically called. I don't usually use just that. For my orcs, I like them to have this vibrant green colored skin, because for me, I'm like, this is an orc, right? Like, what's most distinctive on any orc in like any mythos? I would say it's pretty much unilaterally. Hold on. I just noticed how short the background music is. Is that the right song? No, oh no, that's the wrong theme. Though it's still one of the songs I made, but that's not the song I wanted to put up. Hold on. Of course, it's the wrong song. Let's see here. There we go. I think. Oh, that's still too short. There we go. So yeah, but as I was saying, well, what I typically go for with my orc skin tone is, instead of using WAAAGH flesh, what I use instead is I use Warboss green, and I mix it with Flash Gets yellow. I mix like one part yellow, tongue-tied. 1 part Flash Gets yellow and 2 parts Warboss green, and that's how I get this like way more vibrant green color. And I add, and that's like the base color. Then I apply a wash. I typically do Agrax Earthshade or another brown wash to like give that dirty effect. And then I go over it one more time with slightly more Flash Gets yellow mixed in to even brighten it up to create the highlights on the flesh. And that's pretty much my mixture for like the orc skin color. So I like that vibrant green. Basically, when I put my orcs on the table, I want to make it instant. Like, I want to make it instantly possible to see each and every single one of them with that vibrant green. I know that the WAAAGH flesh tone works better for the grimdark aesthetic of 40k, but again, personal preference-wise, I just love this vibrant green, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else. So yeah, that's just me. That's why I stand by it. That's why I stand by it 120%. So, now that we let that dry a little bit more, I want to apply a little bit more, because it's a very thin coating of Beastie Brown. Thicker coating. So the details I kind of missed my first one. For one reason or another. So, yeah, there we go. So let that dry real quick, because I noticed how kind of thin that's gotten. Go over a little bit more this other orc that we already did. There we go. Oh, but I will say this, I can't take credit for that idea of mixing Flash Gets yellow and Warboss green. That actually, I learned that from Midwinter Minis, for those who are like looking for a great tutorial YouTuber for like the painting aspect of 40k. Midwinter Minis is pretty much a 40k soul like miniature painting YouTuber, and he's got a lot of tutorials, a lot of great videos on like how to do like do-it-yourself stuff. And like me, he likes that more vibrant green. So I saw in his tutorial on how to paint orc boys, I want to say a couple years ago now. That's where I picked that up. It's probably one of the few things in his video that I picked up. No offense to him, it's just I had already been set in my ways and like how I painted my orcs before that for like, you know, practice. The one thing I did like actually put into practice for my own miniatures was that particular part, was like the skin, the way he applied like the skin tones. So credit where credit's due. I wanted to throw that out there. Alright, real quick. Yep. very doomy. Yeah, this is one of the songs I composed for WAAAGH Gothic, which is still, I haven't given up on that. It's just in the, it's been put on the, I've been put a giant pause button on it because you know, circumstances be what they be. There we go. Looks nice and angry. Let's get some more. This on the pink tab. Isn't that bike wrong? It barely has any red in it. No, it's got plenty of red on there. And I don't know what you mean by wrong. If you're asking if it's wrong, no. Because I painted it how I wanted to paint it, so. And it's, my army's Death Skulls, so actually having any red on there at all is wrong. But the Orc Warbiker here that I have was less. The other ones are gonna look very different from this one. This was an art piece. This guy right here was an art piece I did. My focus when painting this guy was like, this is like what I want, like a really good aesthetic for. Like I was very careful with the edge highlights, like especially with here. I was very slow moving and very technical with how I like aligned the base. I got a little ultramarine head there. This is more of an art piece than it was supposed to be like accurate to my army or to fit the theme of my army properly. This was just like, you know, if I spend as much time as I want on this one thing, how good can I make it look, and how good can I make it look to the point where I'm satisfied? So that's more what this guy is. He's not really a proper showcase of what my army is supposed to look like. Anyway. My mistake. I thought orcs painted vehicles like 75% red. No. That would be the Evil Sons clan, if I'm not mistaken. The Evil Sons paint everything red. They paint themselves red. They paint their vehicles red. Red is not like a universal... Like, you gotta understand that the color outside of green on an orc is typically the clan they associate with. So if you're a Death Skulls, you're not gonna paint your bike red. 'Cause even if it makes it go faster, you might put streaks of red in it to make it go faster because you believe red makes things go faster. But you're not gonna paint it pejoratively red, because if you're a Death Skulls and you do that, it's disloyal. It's like a form of disloyalty. Plus, it's just confusing. Like like for orcs, the only way they organize themselves is into their clans, and that matches the color scheme of their vehicles, matches the color scheme of the paint jobs they put on themselves. That's like the only important cultural thing with orcs, is how carefully you handle the, you know, painting things your clan's colors. So with Death Skull, actually with this guy in particular, I made sure to include virtually a color for every clan. Like, you got the Bad Moons with the yellow right there. You got the Evil Sons with the red there, there, and there. You got Death Skulls with a purple glove. Death Skulls again with like a blue handkerchief there. I made sure to, and you know, he's got some highlights of Xandri dust in there for kind of the raggedy look of the Snakebite clan. And for Ludas, Bootleggers, they don't really have a color scheme, so the metallic aspects and kind of lack of color on the rest of it's kind of, you could argue, is Bootleggers. So he's kind of, again, this is an art piece more than it was anything else. But yeah, that's a common misconception, is like, oh, all orcs paint all their vehicles red because it makes things go faster. Yes, that's why orcs love the color red, but they value their clan denotion more than they do of making things go faster. Though they still want to make it go faster, so even if you are in Death Skulls or Goths or something like that, you're going to put like streaks of red or like little bits of red on your vehicle, just so you can go faster while also still being loyal to your clan with a more pejorative color with your clan's pejorative color on your vehicle. So. Just a thing. I did a very cheap zenithal highlight on this guy. Probably was one of my rush jobs for when I prime my minis. I think that's most of it. That's it. Brown on him. Almost good to start doing the skin. Almost good. You're slowly cobbling up your own fantasy setting. Cobbling. Forgive me, that word is not. I'm not recognizing the word cobbling off the top of my head. Probably not, but. Cobbling. Sounds like a word I've heard, but. Actually, the real reason I'm mainly painting up, because I'm trying to get a lot of my orcs painted up for this weekend. So late at night, like when I'm like waiting for like a 3D print to finish, or I'm you know, just not feeling like playing video games or watching TV. Typically, I'll pull out the miniatures and paint. Because me and my brother's game before I had to go into the hospital was a lot of fun. Like, for me, I'm excited for this weekend because it's the first game we actually get to play together since then. And first time in, like, we totally cobbled up the rules because it had been a very long time since the last either of us had played 40k. We're playing the game in 9th this weekend because just we both happen to have the codexes for 9th, whereas 8th we had to look everything up like every 5 seconds. So, it's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna try and beat him. I'm actually 3D printing stuff for to make terrain for us because we were just using soda cans and bottles and stuff. The traditional old school, the old school terrain that we all end up using when you first start like wargaming, mini wargaming. So yeah. Currently, what's printing off right now is, in fact, part of that terrain I'm assembling. Almost missed the undercarriage. There we go. Sorry, sir. Almost missed your bum. Want to make it nice and thoroughly brown. I'm sure you can do that on your own later. More thoroughly. There we go. There we go. That's the first layer there. And one last orc to do for the brown vest, and then we're good to go for the skin. a big metal plate on his belly. Get all messily on there. Is all she wrote for that one. There we go. So, there. Alright, so just to double check that I didn't miss anybody else's undercarriage. I kind of missed his. No, I didn't miss it. Just a little thin. Yeah, don't be afraid to go over, like, again, I don't know how much of the choir I'm preaching to here, but don't, when you thin your paints, you know, in my case, I really thin them, so I almost always have to go in for at least 2 coats. 2 thin coats. I almost always end up going for at least 2 thin coats. Sometimes I go for 3, because I really thin my paints. I'm not shy about how much water I mix in. You know, don't be afraid to double check, go over everything one more time, make sure you give it a thorough coating. Like I gave this guy, he's got actually a very thin, very thick coating, so victory is mine. You need to touch up there. And there. A little bit on the undercarriage. Totally missed that spot, so I think it's only fair that I get some paint on there. Also got everything I need on him. A little bit of touch up there. Creases there. Sure, get everything correctly. Just one more double check of our last guy here. Alright. Boom. So all of them. Good. Most dry. Okay, most dry. Alright, so you're up next. As is with the risk of whenever you put the terrain bits on first, I accidentally nicked part of the side here with the brown, beastie brown, so that means I gotta go back through and coat this, at least this specific part, back in the Martian iron earth. So that is the trade-off, but again, I still think it's more beneficial to put and especially if you do it like me, where you glue the miniature on there first, put the terrain bits, put the terrain paint on first, or bits first on first. All right, so he's ready for the skin mix. What does that need to do? Hey, Greg, how you doing? Hiya. How are you doing? And again, we're shooting for that green for the skin tone. Shooting for that green. bought commando orcs? I do. You're a failure! Get out of here. Nah, you're fine. You bought commando orcs? How you liking them? How you liking the commandos? They serving you loyally? They better be. Shaking the earth here. It really is. We're gonna touch more. I wanna. You wanna touch more. Flash gets in there. There we go. Nice and very bright, vibrant green. Alright. I really don't. I'm gonna switch brushes here in a second, but since it's got some. I'm gonna try and be delicate about this. If I get some of that. Who's to washing it away? I think it'd be better to actually apply it. Even if it is with a thicker brush that's kind of a dick. Yeah. Once you start getting into the detailing part, which is, I don't even consider this part detailing. This is just applying the skin. This is still very broad coloring. Detailing is when you get into just trying to keep the glove consistent, trying to paint things like the gun, the axe, small parts on it. This is where you start to get a lot more careful. You know, you don't want to hit the brown parts. You're not afraid to hit the gun parts or the glove right now because those are not painted over. But, you know, you want to be cautious. Bits of inspiration from settings here and there, plus ideas of my own. Also need to come up with a solid and consistent system of magic. Good luck with that, because that's very hard. I would say whenever people write like fan fictions or stories, or even, you know, completely write out the fan fiction part of what I just said. You know, whenever you write your own stories and stuff like that, and you have magic systems, be very careful, because people will hold you to it. Especially if your story blows up. People will hold you to the rules. So later down, if you're like, oh, I really restricted myself with how I had this work. Crap, how do I fix that? And then you can't, so you have to virtually retcon your own continuity. So be very certain the system is the way you want it to be when you make it. That's all I will say. I have seen many of people write their own stories and then totally botch up, you know, the continuity at the very least, if not the initial magic system. Nope, crap. And that's why you gotta be careful. Corey Berry, welcome to the stream. How you doing? How you doing? Varktik. Varktik. Look at that. Is it bad if your story has more than one magic system? That's an opinion-based thing. I don't really think you can say objectively a story is bad or good if it has more than one system. I will say that, in my opinion, it's bad because you're overcomplicating things. That's my opinion. It's alright, like, you gotta understand that a lot of people, especially when you write, like, fan fictions and stuff, whether you're writing a fan fiction or, again, writing more than one, you way over, like, rule number one, if you're just, like, writing out an idea in your head, you don't intend to sell it to anybody, you don't intend to, you don't intend this to be consumed, it's kind of like a diary entry of your imagination, yeah, go ham, make, like, 50 magic systems. But the moment you, like, get into that stage, you're like, alright, I'm gonna write this for other people to read and enjoy. And I'm gonna even sell it as my own story, sell it as my own book, or, you know, maybe make it into a video game, whatever. Once you start doing that, once you make it for public consumption, that is immediately when I tell everybody out there, take all, what you need to get is somebody who virtually hates your entire idea. And you need to get them and ask them every single time you come up with an idea for your thing, should I do this? And when they tell you fuck no, and then they explain why, take out of that fuck no, you shouldn't do this, take out of that what you logically will agree with. Because I have someone like that. Like when I wrote Warglaive Gothic, I had several friends who fucking hated the idea. And because they hated the idea, because they weren't yes men, they explained why from their point of view there were problems with it, there were issues with it, where it needed to improve, and I took out of the ranting and raving that they said, I took out of that what was valid criticism and what other people, like the masses, would hate as well. So, you know, you kind of gotta pick and choose what logically makes sense and what doesn't. So if you're making something for public consumption and you're, like, again, you're making it like a legit product for a story that you want to sell, don't overcomplicate it. You know, if you have a magic system, do one. Because most people fuck up one. Like, J.K. Rowling fucked up her own magic system with a lot of details in later books. It's really hard to do one magic system right. Dragon Ball Z just kept adding on to how Ki worked, to the point where Ki was just basically an energy source that every main character happened to have access to. Even though in Dragon Ball it was like using the Kamehameha wave or Dodon Ray was like absolutely mind-boggling. Like, oh my god, they're manifesting their Ki into an energy blast. Like, that was a big deal then, and then later on it became completely superfluous. Stick with one. Because most people can't even do one. If you have two, I guarantee you that they either both completely suck. No offense to you, I don't care how good of a writer you think you are, or how good of a writer anybody thinks they are. Doing two magic systems in the same universe. That's really hard to do, and off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody who's ever done that correctly. So, don't need to overcomplicate it, do one. If you do three, I'm not even going to bother to read it. I know it's going to irritate me just how confused. First of all, even if all three systems are cohesive and are great and work functionally, they're going to rub against each other wrong, for one thing. But even if magically, by some insanity, that isn't happening, they aren't like pushing against each other and causing each other to either be superfluous, or they are like somehow you perfectly balanced all three systems to not completely what's the term here? Obsolete one or both of the other magic systems. Like, usually there's one that in particular, in a situation like that, that's the right one, you know, that's the correct magic system, do that one because it's better than the other two. Usually that ends up occurring. So I would say just do one. Don't overcomplicate the hell out of it. I don't get me wrong, like, I get like why that happens, like why overcomplicated systems occur. I'm not I've done it as well. Like, again, find someone who hates your ideas and ask them every time you write something down whether it sounds good or not, and then just carefully pay attention to what they have to say. Because some of it might be valid. Some of it will be invalid as well, so you can, try some of their criticism you can, throw in the trash. But be logical and be, like, accepting and be listening. So, criticism is valuable to, like... Criticism is very valuable to filter out your bad ideas, because everyone has them. If you ever have a bad idea and someone tells you so, don't take it personally. Everyone has bad ideas, and I think a friend that is like, dude, that's a stupid idea. I think those are the best friends in the world, especially if you're taking, like, writing and stuff seriously. Best friends in the world are going to be the ones that tell you have stupid ideas. Because it's not the yes men that help you make good products. It's the people who hate your ideas that most of the time end up helping you make something tangible and worth it and worthwhile. So yeah, find somebody who hates your ideas. Is all I'm saying. And if you can't, or the person that comes to mind hates you as a person, and it's not as much about, like, hating your ideas, then learn to take a step outside of yourself, is what I would say. Like, learn to, take a step back and go, okay, if I have all these amazing ideas and I think they're all so cool, so fun, and I want to shove them all into this one idea. That overexcitement, that overzealousness will completely blind you to how stupid the idea is. Like, I've done that. Like, oh my god, what if they had, like, laser arms that had, like, this big, like, saw blade thing, and what if this character could also transform at will into a dinosaur? Like, all these cool ideas that sound awesome and cool in your own head because you have just such a specific idea in mind. You gotta keep in mind, if it's like a diary situation where you're just writing off the idea and you don't intend anyone to mass consume it, that's perfectly fine. But the moment you intend it for mass consumption, you need to keep in mind what the general reader will have in their brain when they're reading your stuff. Are they going to be seeing what you're seeing, or are they going to see a jumbled mess of ideas that are fucking nuts? Learn to balance it out, is all I'm saying. And also, again, find someone who hates your ideas. But yeah, I would say, objectively speaking, more than one magic system. I would say stick with one, because even if they are somehow magically cohesive, there's a lot you're asking a lot of a viewer or reader. You're asking a lot of them to try and, like, keep in mind in their brain while reading something. Okay, there's this magic system, so this character's probably using this one, or this character's using this magic. Just do one. So they, like, simplicity. So you don't want to overwhelm a reader with too much. So a reader or a viewer, whatever the case may be. So, keep it cohesive. Feel free to put a lot of detail, a lot of visuals, a lot of imagery, but also understand that most people don't want to use more than 20% of their brain when consuming something. Most of the time. Challenge their brains, but also keep in mind they're not using very much of that brain in what they're consuming. Most of the time. People like the casual stuff. There goes my dog again, being a psycho. Only so much of the brown I want to have to reapply. Skin. Any chance I got a tutorial on it? No. But I do the same exact thing that Midwinter Minis does, if you know him. Look up his Orc Boys tutorial. He goes over pretty much the exact same thing I do. You know, it's just a mix. It's literally just like it's 2 parts War Boss Green and 1 part Flash Gets Yellow. So it's a fairly easy recipe to follow. I like vibrant greens. I don't like WAAAGH Flesh, I don't like that. It's too dark. Like it's almost black, black as in actual black, like not like African black. It's like almost black skin, like almost black skin with how dark that green is. And for me, it could be I grew up with like used to the Tolkien orcs, which were they had like black and like lizardy and leathery skin, but I grew up more so with, like, in my mind, like, when I thought of orcs, I typically thought of the Warcraft orcs, which had this vibrant, green, like, colored skin. So, for me, like, having this more, like, dark monotone WAAAGH Flesh for, like, the 40k orcs, for me, I don't like that. Like, it's just, the green, like, the green tide, the green skins. Like, when you hear the term green, you don't think of this almost black monotone green. No, you think of green, like grass green. That's what most people think of when they think of the word green, let alone green tide. And for me, an army made up of guys with this flesh color is a proper green tide. Not the guys made up with WAAAGH Flesh tone, which is way too dark. Kairos Fate Weaver, hello, how are you? Welcome to the stream. How you doing? How you doing? Keep track of what I'm doing here. Get off the base color, it's all a pain in the ass from there. Yeah, real quick, cause just wanna rest my wrist a little bit. Not cause I'm not having cramps yet, but I'm trying to Louise myself. 1 second. Hey, easy there, Mr. Light. Not time to knock you over yet. That's a later thing. Yeah, sorry. Man, these guys get dusty real fast. While I rest my wrist a little bit here, just kind of wanted to showcase some of my other paint jobs. For the Space Marine army that I collect primarily, I do black Templars. Yes, by the way, this is hand painted. That's why it's a little off on one side, the black Templar cross. Yeah, but this is a pretty good example of one of my Space Marines. It's a little dusty. That's what that like kind of like gray fleckiness you see up here is. That's not paint. That's just neglect. God damn, why do you guys always get so dusty? Put these to wash. Yeah, so this is an example of one of my Black Templar Space Marines that I collect. One thing that I've noticed about like the Black Templars that I don't like is the fact that they're just basically two colors. It's Corvos black and then a mixture of Xandri dust and white for like that parchment looking color, and then black again for like the detailing work. And the and brown, beastie brown for the leathery pouches and stuff like that, and a little bit of lead belcher. It's such a simple scheme. So one thing I'm gonna change about my Black Templar theme is I'm actually going to on the edges of the pauldrons, I'm gonna paint those gold. I'm gonna not Balthasar's gold, but redemption armor. Hold on. Retributor armor, like that, like pure, like that, like Custodes gold. I'm gonna put that around the edges just to give it something a little bit more substantial. You know, I could leave them like this. I'm still debating, but primarily that's like a big thing I want to do right now for my Space Marine army, is for my Black Templars, is just to give them a little bit more than the kind of meh scheme, the meh like two color scheme. I'm gonna add that more gold on all of them. And maybe some red on like the Blade Guard veterans. I thought about that as well. It's all up in the air, but that's one other army I collect. And this is this right here is an example of my Khorne Tyranids. I have the fan writing I kind of have of my hive, my Tyranid hive mind, is that this particular hive fleet got disconnected from the greater Tyranid hive mind, and they got lost in the warp. And Khorne, seeing this vulnerability, immediately struck and took advantage of it, and took control essentially of this hive's hive mind, and in a way physically ended up changing them and contorting them into Khornate Tyranids. So, you know, I have this is what I was talking about earlier, by the way, for those who were here during that part of the stream, is I'm doing this really like maroon, kind of deep purple, their terrain, and then I'm doing like a pinkish, kind of a pinkish dry brush over that to give it a very alien looking terrain. Yeah, that's... I was trying to experiment a little bit with that pauldron, trying to do something there, but look, in hindsight, that looks pretty fucked up, so I'm gonna have to go over that again. But they're supposed to be Ultramarines. And, yeah, this right here is a 3D printed model, by the way. This is a unique model that I found on Thingiverse. Someone made a cool, like, custom Tyranid unit. In terms of what this would be in, like, a custom game, because I couldn't take this to a Warhammer shop, because, you know, they're against 3D printing. But, this would, in terms of, like, data sheets, this would be, crap, I said it earlier. A Hive Tyrant. This would be a Hive Tyrant for like stats and stuff. I like how she came out, both from a 3D printing perspective and a paint job. A little bit of the paint came out uneven on the tail here. I think that's because of the black wash I used. But all in all, I really like how she came out. And but I used Balthasar gold for like this kind of like copper blade vibe. Yeah. So I do really like how the Khornate Tyranids are looking. That's just a basic Hormagaunt? Where's the Termagaunt? Termagants are the ones with guns, I think. This is a Hormagaunt. Yep. And this one's probably like the best showcase of like that purple bright terrain. Yeah, I collect a lot of over my 9 years as a fan. We're coming up on 9 years, I believe. I'm either still on my 8th year or I'm about to hit my 9th. But in my 8 or 9 years as a fan of 40K, I gotta say I'm really proud of I'm really proud of how, at the very least how much I've invested in this hobby, but certainly in my own progress as a painter. Like I've improved quite a bit from where I started. I think that's most people though. Like most people start off like in this like really like I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing, and I'm too scared to even look up a tutorial, so I'm just gonna jump on in and then screw it up. But Yeah. I do enjoy, you know, what I can't wait till I get this entire hive army done. With yeah, it's a whole god. Like kit bash and convert. Kit bashing is a lot of fun, and that's something like once you've like assembled and painted like your first like 50, well, for me anyway, for my first 50 minis, period. That's not just orcs. That's every army I collect. Then I started doing kit bashes because I was like, oh, okay, now that I've gotten comfortable with like the basics, now let me do the more advanced creativity with kit bashing. So, yeah. Alright. Rested my hand well enough. That Space Marine there, I'll put him back properly later. You expect the dull green from the Imperial Guard, not the Orcs? I agree. I expect the dull green from the Imperial Guard. But for some reason, WAAAGH Flesh is this super dark green. Like, this is WAAAGH Flesh. Bright green. Like, it doesn't make sense to me to give them this really dark green skin tone when they're called the Green Tide. They're called... I'm sorry, but like that darker green is not what comes to mind. It's a more vibrant green, kind of like grass. Orcs, I basically just built my 2 cars and 6 bikes and started kit bashing from the point onwards. And I guess everyone's different. For me, I assembled and painted like 50 minis well before I was comfortable enough to paint to do kit bashes. Plus, I also had to assemble enough raw bits on the side anyway to do that. But to each their own, I suppose. I have one character that isn't kit bashed. You only have one? I have a lot more than that. I'd say the majority of my orc boys are not kit bashed. Some of them are. I have a set of orc boys that have Space Marine pauldrons and stuff that I gave some like damage effects to, like they stole it after they helped kill killed one. Alright, so any more of the flesh tone I gotta do on this guy. Not really, there's a touch up right there I wanna do. Your Necrons are the opposite. You only have 2 kit bash models. So with your Necrons, you're more of a purist. I do kind of find that funny, because that's kind of ironic. Alright. So, before I forget, let me... I swear to God, hairs just appear out of the mythos. I get that I have long hair, but it's not like I'm shedding. Long hairs appear out of the ether to plague me.
trying to carefully gauge where I gotta do the touch-ups. For the most part, I did a pretty clean job on this one. I don't see too many places I gotta fix that. Okay. That looks good. Well, of course, the moment I do that, I then notice another one. Okay, there we go. Whoop. Track down some third-party medieval weapons to give to neophyte models. I just don't think of Kabar as properly knightly melee weapon. I have no idea what you're referencing off like right this second. If it's 40k related, I probably know it. It's just not coming to mind.
I don't know every model.
I really fucked up with this one. I got the brown everywhere.
I'm touching up quite a bit, yeah. Alright, did I fix it all up? No, I did not. I was about to say. Too easy, Jim.
Touched up all the green there.
Oh, Black Templar and Neophytes. Okay, that's what you're referencing.
Yeah.
Are you doing those kind of kit bashes with scout units for like normal Space Marines, or using like a third party like 3D printable resin kind of Neophyte model that you're doing stuff to?
Next. one of my favorite parts about this aspect of the hobby is kind of like how relaxing it is. I know most of you probably, I would hope most folks kind of agree with that notion that one of the more relaxing aspects of 40K or D&D or any hobby like it is kind of like just the kind of easy going kind of painting and careful. Just like that.
There's a way for me to do this that way. There we go. And I didn't get any of the green on the brim. There we go.
Alright, hold on. One thing I might have neglected. Yeah, I neglected it on this couple pieces here.
The fingers, because I forgot the gloves. Alright, don't cover up the whole hand here. There we go.
Oh, that's my finished guy.
Always one part that just kind of slips my brain of like, yeah, that's painted this color, right? Yeah. Let's not forget the thingies. There we go. There we go.
Got the thingies.
Do the same here. Oh, look, this guy's better than him.
Hey, Simbeku and Madao, how you doing? How you doing? Love breaking down power systems in fantasy. You love breaking them down or understanding them?
Because breaking down is like trying to explain it to somebody else, whereas just understanding the system is another thing entirely. Like that's just entirely internal in your own head. Invader Zam. I almost said Zim. How you doing? If Alphino played Warhammer, what army would he play? Imperial Guard? No. Hold on. Eldar. Not just because he's an elf, but because I think the magic use. I'd say Eldar. Craft World Eldar specifically, not Drukhari, but Craft World Eldar. I would have said Imperial Guard from the the regimentation standpoint, as well as kind of. But now that, when I think about it more carefully, his personality best goes with Eldar. Yeah, so I'd say Craft World Eldar. But I've been surprised by some people. Like some of the friends I've made in the 40k community, knowing like when I first met most of them, I wouldn't have been able to tell you based on their personality. Sometimes it's not a personality thing. Like I know a lot of people whose their personalities are super nice, super sweet, and very passive, but then they play armies like the Drukhari or Cornate Chaos. So sometimes you can't tell based on someone's personality. Oftentimes people play the opposite of their actual personality in terms of in-game factions. At least that I've seen. Yeah, but I generally say Alphino. If we're going based on personality and not tastes, I'd say he'd probably be an Eldar player. We're just doing some trial roulette, got the first Endwalker trial, and new people could not get the mechanics, and we ended up winning. I was going to play FF today and get back on track with the MSQ, but I had some issues with the launcher, because I would type in my information, like my username, my password, like I usually do, but then it would just freeze. Like I'd press login, and then it'd be blank, and then it would never go through that. I had that problem. And then finally, when that went away, after I did tried to do some troubleshooting, I then had the problem of the queue being super long and only having 15, 20, 30 minutes at max before I wanted to stream. So part of that would have been waiting in queue. So I decided, screw it, I'll just try and get in tomorrow at an earlier time, and also hopefully not have the same launcher issues, and which I believe I fixed. And get back on track tomorrow, where right now I can just focus on trying to get some more of my guys painted for
my game with my brother-in-law this weekend. Yeah, that's the main reason I'm trying to like get more of my orcs painted up as fast as I can. Is this weekend me and my brother-in-law are having a game. We already had one game together, but it was mostly us neither of us really remembering the rules very well. Like, we completely skipped the morale phase, for example. We forgot it existed. So we did our initial deployment, and then we did the standard movement phase, shooting phase, and charge phase. That's it. We totally forgot about movement. And sorry, morale phase. I don't know if I should be worried about that sound my 3D printer is making. Because it's supposed to be making a as it's like sucking on the FEP screen, but I'm hearing a very squidgy. I don't know if I should be worried about that. Not a sound it usually makes, so I'm hoping the FEP screen just making a weird noise. But I don't know. Lichguard? Who's suffering personified? I think the best part about orcs being my main army is just how much fun I have when I'm losing and when I'm winning. Like, when I'm losing, I'm having just as much fun as when I'm winning, because the shenanigans are just so much fun. And with orcs, it's pretty much pure luck of the die. Like, there's strategy to orcs, don't get me wrong, but most of the time, it's like pure luck of the die. And when I was playing my brother-in-law, when he was playing Catachan Jungle Fighters, and I was playing orcs. And I had a full, like, set of my force going forward. And then came about the moment of truth when I was finally in range to shoot him with my entire gun line, and he had been picking at my knobs. He'd been taking pot shots at Death Dreads and Gaz. So finally, when I was in range, I was like, all right, so these like 25 die in my hand. That's the first volley out of 3. Which was fucking hilarious because the first volley only like 4 shots went through. Second volley 12 shots went through. And third volley 10 shots went through. So I was doing actually pretty good. And then I had to roll to match against his the difference between his toughness and my strength. Then I rolled pretty good for that as well. I got like, I want to say overall like 20 of the shots made that roll. And then he had to make then I had to roll the wound, and then he rolled his saving. And then out of all the rolling that I had to do, out of everything, I only got 7 wounds through. I took out 7 Katachans. Out of all that rolling, only 7. I was like, you know what, I'm satisfied with that. That was great. It's fun playing orcs. It's just chaotic and all over the place. So I got his hands. Alright, so it's his neck I'm missing. Alright.
Definitely gonna have to do some touch-ups with the brown. To get to the neck, I had to grind up. I had to grind the brain, the brush, right against the brown straps. So I gotta fix that in a second here. So I think I got his entire. So I got his skin done.
Downside with badge painting. It's very monotonous. But worth it.
Almost out. Almost out of my orc flesh combo there. Gotta remix it in a second here.
You've kind of come to the conclusion that Tau Guard orcs and Tyranids / GSC playing against each other is the most fun you can have in 40k. Well, yeah, they're all horde armies for the most part, and Tau and Guard in particular are gunline armies. So most of it's just taking pot shots at each other, and then getting enraged as the Tau player has those stupid fucking shield drones that take wounds for them. So it's like, damn those fucking drones. I actually, the thing is, I've never personally played against a Tau player, so that frustration is secondhand. A friend of mine, though, will not play against a Tau player. Like, if he goes to, like, the local hobby store and sees, like, the games going on, and the only available other player there is a Tau player, he will walk the fuck out. He will play an Eldar player, he'll play a Drukhari player, despite how sometimes broken that can be. He'll play one of them, but he won't play Tau. Because of shield drones. He hates shield drones.
I don't know if they still work the same way as they did like when we were talking about him playing, because I think that was back in 7th or 8th edition when the shield drones were like super annoying. I don't know how they work in 9th. Maybe in 9th they got nerfed, or maybe in 9th they got buffed. I don't know. But I do know that to this day he still refuses to play Tau. Playing against Tau, I should say. Though he doesn't play Tau either, so. The Custodians versus Custodians are the worst time you can have in 40k. For a tabletop game, I've never done that, so I can't speak from experience if I agree with you or not, but I would say Elite Army versus Elite Army feels probably more like playing Kill Team than it does like playing 40k. I would say. But that's an outsider's kind of observation more than it is a from personal experience type deal thing. There you go. Parts of Codex's army books just because I don't like the look or playstyle of certain units. I'd say you're not alone in that. There's plenty of people who play certain armies but then completely neglect specific unit types because they just don't like how they play or how they mix in. Good time as I need to do the touch-ups with these guys in it before I forget. Fuck. Oh. I nicked the brown onto the green, defeating the purpose of that suffrage. Alright, now to go back and fix it with the damn skin tone. The reason you like Necrons is because you like the aesthetic of every unit. I mean, they're undead Terminators, so can't blame you there. Their natural aesthetic is rather rather awe-inspiring. Alright.
wait for that to dry and fix it all over again.
That is one downside with not painting things in sub-assemblies, is those kinds of fuck-ups you gotta keep redoing. But worth it in the end. I still stand by. I don't like doing sub-assembly painting. Mainly because when you put all this effort into painting this like really minute details, and then when you assemble it, half the shit you did is not visible because it's covered up by part of the unit's body. Yeah. Tend to just tell people not to do sub-assemblies because of that. Primaris are dumb. The lore explanation are dumb, yeah. I don't hate the aesthetic like a lot of people do. I think a lot of people are allowing their hatred of the lore explanation of Primaris to bleed into this level of like illogical thinking, where they're like, I hate the lore explanation. I hate GW for the way they did this, so I must also hate their aesthetic. Like, that ain't bad. No, you can't objectively tell me that is a bad or ugly design. I'm sorry. The only part I would agree with is if someone said, well, the pauldrons, I liked the big pauldron kind of feel with the normal Space Marines versus the Primaris. I'll agree with that, but that's a preference. But I don't think objectively you can say this is a bad design. But lore, absolutely. The way they play on the tabletop, them being the Swiss Army knife and being kind of unbeatable at times. Well, not unbeatable, but harder to beat than they should sometimes. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I really don't like how they implemented Primaris. I'd say most of the old school fan base probably don't. I mean, Primaris were the right idea just for the wrong faction. And Chaos should have gotten Primaris. Like that would have revitalized their lore and would have increased their threat level. I mean, we already knew in the lore Fabius Bile was working on Super Space Marines, so logically they could have just had him create the Primaris. Probably by a different name, since Primaris really doesn't sound all that intimidating. But they could have handled it way better. I think if they had gone that route, I think most people would have praised Primaris when it came out and would have liked it. But I know I would have. Like, if they had gone the Fabius Bile Chaos route, I would have preferred that. And then much later on, introduce like the Loyalists version of that. Maybe bring back Raptors. Raptors, I believe, was it Raptors? The program Corvus was working on for better Space Marines. Can't remember what it's called. I think it was Raptor, but I have to double check that. Whatever the case. No, if they had done something like that, that would have been way better. But they invented so much just to justify Primaris existing, and even then, because they wrote all of that in a bucket, like right in this like cordoned off circle from the rest of the lore. When you hold up the Primaris lore to scrutiny against the rest of the lore, like oh, the Primaris are activated because of the current threat that we're facing is the greatest we've. Like the Primaris were only supposed to be activated in like a end of days type scenario. Okay, what about the War of the Beast? That wasn't enough. What about the 13th Black Crusade when we initially had Cadia get sliced, like completely blown the fuck up? Was that not enough? Like what what level did we have to reach of oh fuck, we're fucked before the Primaris? Yeah, bullshit. I know threat level in the 40k universe is a bit relatively speaking, but you can't say the War of the Beast wasn't justification to activate the Primaris. But no, they didn't. Why? Because they didn't exist. They didn't exist in the lore writers' minds, and that thing again. Just they shouldn't have written Primaris in the way that they wrote them in. They didn't think about it.
All their vehicles are lame. I mean, there is that too, I guess. Don't they have they had that new ATV thing, right? I don't have that, so I can't remember. The one like new addition to Space Marines for like a unit type that I actually like is that Hammerfall bunker, and that's mainly because it's basically the StarCraft 2 bunker. Ripped straight out of StarCraft. Like, it looks exactly like it. Yeah, I don't think GW can claim even for half an iota of a second that, oh, that's a completely original idea. We did not totally take that from StarCraft. And then all the hardcore GW defenders run in and they're like, oh, well, technically StarCraft stole everything from 40K. It's that's not exactly true, because StarCraft was supposed to be a 40K game. Like, they were working with GW. It's not like they were working on StarCraft and they stole a bunch of shit from 40K and didn't. You know, they were working with them, and then I don't know who. Like, I still don't know who is like responsible for the falling out of that. But Blizzard ended up splitting from GW, or GW ended up splitting away from them, and then Blizzard made StarCraft because they're like, hey, we still want to make this thing, but now we don't have permission to do 40K, but we still want to do, you know, we still want to do this thing, so we're just gonna have to write around what we were doing. Grey Knights are way better in lore. Yeah, and the thing is, that's the thing, we already had Super Space Marines when it well before the Primaris showed up. Now we just have Super Space Marines. Probably GW. I mean, probably with their track record, with their track record, wouldn't surprise me. But we've learned a lot of bad things about Blizzard over this last 2 years as well. So it could be anybody at this point who is responsible for that falling out. But yeah, StarCraft was supposed to be a 40K game. Just ended up not being allowed to be a 40K game because, again, they had some kind of falling out, and Blizzard ended up having to make it, you know, it essentially had to make a bootleg 40K, which ended up making its own universe that people really liked. Like, I like the StarCraft universe quite a bit. It really did come into its own, so StarCraft was a pretty good example of what can happen when you don't just totally give up, when things don't go your way, and you just kind of use your creativity to kind of bounce back and still come out with something very good on the other end. StarCraft's a very good example of that. All right, so yeah, my skin tone's pretty much all out on my paint palette, so we're gonna have to remix that. Set up Primaris they had set up Primaris, had none. Oh, so Primaris had no setup? Correct. They had fucking no setup there. I think it's silly Primaris can't hop in Rhinos and Land Raiders and whatnot. Yeah, I agree. Shall be dipping my phone. It is dying. Alright. Dip perish, my friend. Take care. Everywhere. Me? Or who are you talking to? I mean, I'm hoping I'm making something cool here. Grey Knights had set up with Horus Heresy novels and Garo audio dramas. Yes. Yes, they did. Still bad setup. Like they still wrote Primaris very much in a vacuum. I know you're talking about Grey Knights. I'm just going back to that and then comparison to my brain's track with that was very, like, I probably should have said half of that out loud. Like my brain connection there wasn't very well set. Yeah, but the setup for Grey Knights was, well, I wasn't around in the hobby back then, but as far as I've always understood it, lore-wise, Grey Knights have always been loved by the fan base. So whereas Primaris have, since their introduction, have been virtually hated by everybody. Virtually, man. Hard to say with how much confidence you can really say that I don't know much ever hate it. Again, I don't hate the aesthetic. With Primaris, again, don't hate the aesthetic. I think the aesthetic is objectively good. They look great. Only thing I would change, really, is bigger pauldrons. Because I liked that feel with Space Marines as having this giant fucking, like, tanks on both shoulders. They gave them a lot more, like, blockiness and weight just looking at them. Whereas Primaris, because their body got bigger, but the pauldrons virtually stayed the same. So I do wish that they had mixing it a little bit more. Hopefully one day I'll be able to get back to, one day soon I should say. It's definitely gonna happen one day, but hopefully one of these days soon I can get back to working on Warglaive Gothic. So people have a 40k alternative. And again, I have to reiterate that Warglaive Gothic is in no way a 40k clone, and it's also in no way my attempt to crush GW. First of all, that'd be illogical to do. They've got pedigree, I've got nothing. But the day I can, like, get back to hammering away at Warglaive Gothic, the better. I mean, hold on, let me do this. Of course. Hold on. Pull something up. I mean, I didn't actually get to showcase this off very much. Where did it go? There it is. You know, this is the concept art that I last had done by Pyrrhus before I ran out of money to hire him properly to, you know, to pay for these concept sketches and stuff like that. So, yeah, the Gretsch Ghouls, we only just got underway, and I still have all the files. I'm never getting rid of them, and I mean, I'm still working on everything. Still working on everything. Yeah. All I ask is for patience. Warglaive Gothic is gonna be a thing. It's just gonna take a lot more time. I do gotta admit it's a little somber, you know, having these files, looking at it and knowing that, you know, because of, you know, my current circumstances, I'm so behind on getting any work done on it. We'll definitely get back to it. Sorry, back to the painting. Yeah. It sucks when life overtakes you when you're trying to get, a cool thing done. Trying to dip, shower, eat, and get in the queue. All right, have a good one, Lightning Lunatic. Thank you for hanging while you could, man. Thank you for hanging while you could. Yep. Still only got the
Still only got the one miniature that I got to design and print off for WAAAGH, and it's the Gretsch Tomb Maker. The only unit that's officially got a finished prototype. Looks good in my opinion. But, yeah. The only WAAAGH Gothic mini that's been officially produced for a prototype. Working on the rest. If I get my job back with the Navy, I'll have money starting to come in more regularly. So hopefully that means Pyrrhus will have plenty of work under me again, and we can get WAAAGH back underway. It's not cheap, that's for damn sure. Life happens, get a helmet. It's pretty much that's true. That's true. My finances ran out tonight. Life got up. So borrows and builds underground bases. Tomb Maker? No. It's not a base builder. The Tomb Maker, in terms of lore for WAAAGH Gothic, is a giant subterranean worm, essentially. And the reason it's called a Tomb Maker is in terms of how it works in the game. It burrows underground and attacks and emerges behind enemy lines, and also causes the ground to come down. I don't know how. I was still in the speculative stage of how that was going to work on the tabletop properly with like the ground coming down, but it could be like calculated as a form of like attack. Like with numbers anyway, without actually having like, if you have a terrain you were using, you actually have to cave it in. Oh. But the Tomb Maker is a unit, is an elite unit on the battlefield for the Gretsch that specifically burrows underground and attacks the enemies from below. When it emerges, though, it's very vulnerable. It's not got a very strong hide. Was kind of the idea. Kind of a massive damage dealer, but kind of a glass cannon if it gets actually properly hit. Especially with the right explosives. So like sand snakes from Dune, kind of. No, the inspiration for the Tomb Maker was actually graboids from Tremors, but I guess technically Tremors got that idea from Dune, if I'm not mistaken. That was a good film. I still haven't seen the latest Dune film, so I gotta do that at some point. I know it's on YouTube for like to rent, so I'll check it out when I can. But I heard it was really, really good, so I was surprised to hear that, because normally with every film that comes out nowadays, I'm expecting like a whopping degradation of like fuck this film. Like I'm expecting that 99% of the time. So when Dune came out and it was good, I was like, oh really? So I still gotta watch it at some point. I gotta give it my viewership. Same thing with Arcane. Like when Arcane was coming out, I was like,
League of Legends fans are gonna get ragey because they're gonna fuck that up. But I've heard it's one of the best shows out there. Like, whether you're a fan of League of Legends or not. So, I gotta check that out too. Please, I like those kinds of surprises. I like being wrong when it's for a positive. I love being wrong in those circumstances. Oh, Tremors? Oh yeah, Tremors is a good film. Okay, it wasn't long enough. The Dune movie or Arcane? Or both, I guess. Yeah. Extremely powerful ambush predator. Yep. In concept, it's very cool idea, but there's a reason it's been done. It's been done several times. Tremors, Dune, and I know there's a couple other series that have at least had a creature like that appear in it. And I got my series with, you know, Tomb Makers. Every collectible card game as well. I mean, yeah, that's true. Wait, Pokemon? Pokemon? I guess. I can't remember what that one's called. Digley? Digley, I think. What's the name of that Pokemon? Little thing that pops out of the ground. I guess that counts. Can't remember if it had evolutions. Right now the Pokemon theme song is playing in my head right now. Like no one ever was. To catch them is my real test. Train them is my cause. Copyright strike. He hummed the theme. Hey Paris. Gonna head out, so have a good day. Have a good one, Devino. Thanks for hanging out, man. Fuck. Been playing in my head all fucking night now. Damn you. Oh. So what factions are planned for WAAAGH Gothic? Well, I did entire videos on it. The gist of the factions, let's see. It's been a while since I've had to do this spiel. Let's see, there's the Gretsch, the Sovereignty, the Warborn, the Terran Republic. Let's see, am I missing anyone in my Warborn, Sovereignty, Gretsch, the Volk, and that was all the first edition planned factions. Was the Volk, the Gretsch, the Sovereignty, the Warborn, and the Terran Republic. If I recall correctly. If I'm forgetting one of my own factions, that would be a bad sign. So with WAAAGH Gothic, I did a Q&A stream, and I also did several videos about it. I even have a channel that was. I even created a side channel that was. That was side dedicated to. Side dedicated to like showcasing like the production process. Hold on.
Not clicking in that one.
What do they say to that? Yeah, this is, you know, without actually. Yeah, there's the little symbol there. With WAAAGH Gothic, you know, there I am in all my bearded glory. WAAAGH Gothic, this is on the channel anyways. I was showcasing like the production, like some of the like background production process for like prototyping minis. Like for example, this was the process of prototyping out this sexy bad boy. Yeah. But with WAAAGH Gothic, the idea was it was my own grimdark sci-fi universe that was intended to become the backdrop for the tabletop war game of WAAAGH Gothic, which was inspired by 40k. However, as I've stressed numerous times, it is inspired by, not Hollywood's version of inspired by, but actually inspired by. I got my start with I know I wanted a similar vibe, but that's it. Like in terms of similarities, it's just the vibe. I didn't want too much to any carryover between the two games. I didn't want my love of 40k to influence too much, the style or the lore of WAAAGH. WAAAGH was made very much with the intention of not being like 40k, in the sense of like its lore and stuff like that. So I wrote quite extensively, very large lore bible of the universe, of the general lore for each of the factions. Yeah. So again, it's been a while since I've had to do this spiel because it's been so long since I've actually gotten to work on it. WAAAGH is currently on ice because of lack of finances. I can't even afford the software you're seeing me use on stream right now. Like I can't afford that right now because I need to get my old full-time job for the Navy back because that paid $22 an hour. And with that spare income, I can invest that into more concept art. I can invest it back into the 3D software I use to design my miniatures. I can get back to work on WAAAGH once that happens. But for right now, due to lack of finances, it's on hold. But it will be back into production soon. Hopefully soon. I would say one way or another, I'm gonna have a full-time job somewhere within the next month and a half. So once the money starts coming in from that, and I've built up some spare funds, I'll be immediately back to work on this. But for now, this is what I got. Oh, I will warn you, you might have difficulty finding the WAAAGH Gothic channel because it's only got 93 subs. I don't have a huge following over there, so make sure to filter for channels. But I also have some videos on this. Excuse me. And I have some videos and a couple streams on this channel about WAAAGH as well. So. Sorry, let me stretch. Yeah, so
you know, different angles of me working on it. I'm doing the ridging for the skin folds. Replacing the teeth. I'm not trying to hold up this whole stream with this. Yeah, and then this is my workstation is still there behind me, by the way. It's just it's inflated way past this. I have 2 Anycubic Photon Mono X's and 2 Alegu Mercury Plus wash and cure machines. So I've literally doubled what you're seeing on stream right now. Me use for 3D printing material. Although it's about just as messy, but there's no way to make 3D printing not messy, especially when you're dealing with resin. Yeah, so that's me just going through the. That's the machine working on the print. Note to self, next time I do a monthly update, expand upon how much footage I'm actually working with. And then just a showcase of what it looks like in resin form, what I did after I primed it, and then after I painted it. Found it. Nice. Glad you found it. Alright, so. Yeah, they've done that self-promotion out of the way. Bam, bam, bam. Bam, bam, bam. So who are those hyena guys with all the green weapons? Those would be the Rathan. Which reminds me, I did leave out a faction when I was listing them off. Again, it's been so long since I've had to do this spiel. And ironically, I left out my favorite faction, so that's a bad sign. But those are the Rathan. They are the 6th faction that totally ghosted out of my brain when I was listing them off for you. The Rathan are a... How do I put this? The Rathan are kind of like space pirates and raiders. They are made up of clans, well, more tribes, that live on raid barges. They don't have any known homeworld. The raid barges are kind of scrapped together. They're very much similar to the orcs in 40k to a degree. They're scrappy. They're raiders. They survive off of stealing things from others and just kind of ramshackling technology together. But that's kind of where the similarities end. Well, no, there is one other similarity worth mentioning. They are also a warlike culture. They fight amongst themselves for their hierarchy. You know, they have the clan. They have their clan war boss. And they still also call them war boss. 40k doesn't own that term, and honestly, it's perfect. Their war boss is in charge until the guy below him kills him and takes his rank. So, like pirates in traditional seafaring voyages, whoever kills who becomes the new pirate captain. That's kind of the idea with them. The Gretsch, I'll stick to talking about the Rathan for a little bit longer, because leaving it at that's not quite correct. The Rathan, what makes kind of them grimdark, because one thing is, it is a grimdark sci-fi universe. It's dark. I had to go to bad places in my head to come up with some of the ideas for the factions, and with the Rathan, what kind of makes them grimdark and horrifying for like other factions to face, they're not really afraid to die, for one. They attack, and they're in terms of the tabletop game, they are very much a horde army. They are going to be massive contingencies. They have mechs, they have technology, they have they're gonna have like sneaky tactics and stuff like that to win like matches and stuff like that. They don't play fair. To them, if they win, they play. If they won, that's all that mattered. Grimdark, unlike 40k has been. What makes the Rathan particularly horrifying, though, is they are capable of copulating with any species. And a big part of the Rathan culture, outside of stealing technology, is slaves. They take slaves, and they do one of three things with their slaves, typically. They either eat them, sell them to other factions or to other species out in the galaxies that they come across, or grape without the G. Like I said, I had to go some dark places for a lot of the horrifying elements of the factions, and with the Rathan, they don't need there are female Rathan. They're typically bigger. Like the females amongst the Rathan are usually the largest, and they also grow faster when they're born, so they can keep pace with their brothers, so they don't die. And they do breed with their own kind, but they are also capable. It's kind of like a xenomorph kind of thing. They are able to inseminate any female of any species, and what's going to come out is not going to be part human. It's going to be pretty much pure Rathan. It's not really... like I said, I had to go to dark places, and I've had to give the outline. Every time I try and explain that element of the Rathan, I always feel weird, kind of trying to break it down, because it's like, Jesus Christ. But yeah, and if, for example, if it's a human woman that they do that to, she's not gonna have just one. She's gonna have like 6 or 7 of them, and they grow really fast. So you are looking, like when I say use a xenomorph example, quite literally there's going to be that. If they can go out the other way, the normal way, if you will. Yeah, it's pretty bad. And they eat their mother, typically, once they burst out. So, like I said, pretty horrifying. And the Rathan are kind of pre-programmed to know things from birth. They know their language. They know that there's a hierarchy. They know language, hierarchy, and they know that raiding is their life. They know that they need to take technology and they need to take stuff to survive. Like they're born virtually knowing those 3 basic rules. Like they're not taught it. Like they're out of the womb and they know this. It's pre-programmed in their brain. So from the get-go, they know certain like laws of nature or their nature. But yeah, that's why the boogeyman of Warglaive Gothic's universe is the Rathan. There is another scarier boogeyman, but the more common to come across boogeyman in their galaxy is the Rathan. One other thing to note, by the way, about Warglaive Gothic as a whole is in Warglaive Gothic, the entire setting does not take place in the Sol Galaxy, which is our galaxy, which means no Mars, no Earth, no even our Sun, Mercury, Jupiter, Pluto. What we know for our galaxy, we don't see in Warglaive Gothic. And the backdrop of 3 of the factions are human or originated. The sovereignty of man. The Crypta sovereignty is the species is called Crypta, but they were once human. The Crypta sovereignty, the Terran Republic, and the Warborn were all humans at one point. The Terran Republic are still, biologically speaking, the closest to human as we know humans to be. Whereas the Warborn and the Crypta of the sovereignty are massively far removed from what humans used to be. All 3 factions entered this galaxy, and this is the earliest point in the lore that anyone knows. I know what happened before all this. I know, like, you know, I have it in here. But in terms of what you guys, the players, and you guys, the fans of the universe, know, humans came to this universe on 3 Ark ships. They're referred to by all three factions as the Spears of Humanity. At some point, for an unknown reason, the 3 spears broke off into, when they entered this galaxy, broke off from one another. One went way further than the other 2 to nearly the opposite side of this galaxy. One crash landed not too far from where they entered the galaxy. Another crash landed somewhere at a midpoint. But the point is, they split off into completely different directions. Each Ark ship had roughly 5 million people in cryostasis. Each of the Ark ships landed on individual planets and then and from those humans who woke up, they began to rebuild their societies, but each planet possessed its own challenges which reshaped them. Yeah, so there's a lot to it, and I'd go through a lot of more detail in the Q&A stream I did forever ago. You can find it on this channel. I really ought to re-upload that to the Warglaive Gothic channel at some point, because that really helps, you know, people answer some of their questions. But I really go into major detail there. It's like it's a different universe. It's a different galaxy. Earth and the Sol Galaxy do exist in Warglaive Gothic's universe, but they're not in the Sol Galaxy. The Sol Galaxy does exist, but the main setting of Warglaive Gothic is taking place in the galaxy that they're in. I have a name for it, but sorry, the Shroud Galaxy, I believe is what I called it. Actually, I think it's something Shroud Galaxy, but I had to pull up my notes. But yeah, so humans entered this galaxy from elsewhere, specifically from the Sol Galaxy, where Earth, Mars, the Moon, Jupiter, Mercury, where all the planets we know in our galaxy are, but we're no longer there. We're in a different galaxy. And for all intents and purposes, each of the human factions, again, were on Ark ships. Now, were those Arks to escape something? Were they simply just leaving Earth because they're on a mission? I know the answer, but for me, I cannot wait. Like, once Warglaive Gothic gets off the ground and is actually properly, you know, being consumed by people and they're getting engaged in the universe, which I'm excited for at some point, but it's way down the line, especially with how early I am in production. But I am eager to see, like, the speculation of, like, why humanity, like, why humans came here, why the ships split off from one another, you know, things like that.
let me know when you next want art to kick off again. I will. It'll probably keep your ear out for me for the next month because I'm waiting to hear back to get my job back with the Navy. And when I get that job back, I'll be making $22 an hour. So being able to hire you for artwork will be on the table then. Right now, it's still not because YouTube's still, unfortunately, my main job. But do any of the factions use robots or cyborgs? Yes. The Terran Republic primarily use quite a few mechs. Not necessarily robots. They don't really believe or allow automation, but they use mech suits. And they do have, you know, like some of the custom bits I'm gonna have on like certain like infantry units is cybernetics. But if you're asking for like, do they have specific like unit or like elite units that are like cyborg badasses? On the roster right now, for like what I've conceptualized for their like tabletop army to look like, no. It's they got their basic infantry with some of them having like grenade launchers and like really like tough stuff that they can implement. But from there up, it's from like a heavy weapons team kind of thing to then mechs, small scale mechs to larger scale mechs to basically their version of Imperial Knights. The Terran Republic have a huge amount of. I can share with you. Image of that. This is a good example of their infantry. We unfortunately never got around to, at least well with the concept art I paid for. Like the big money thing here is Pyrrhus, who's actually in the chat right now, or Jacob Jones as is his name. He's my main artist who worked with me on this. I commit. WAAAGH Gothic is my brainchild, but very much Pyrrhus created the visual of WAAAGH. You know, he's the artist I've commissioned for pretty much everything. And yeah, the Terran Republic have mechs, and you know, basic some cybernetics, some stuff like that, for some of their units. I think that's the only other sample of them I have is Geneva. She's the only other example we have of. Yeah, she's. Yep. Guess my samurai helmet, so unique and cool. Yeah, I'm glad you like it. The aesthetical inspirations that I had for the Terran Republic was for lore. A good portion of their ARC ship culturally was made up of Americans and Japanese, so that, and Germans, but I'm kind of, you know, the German influence on their culture was minimal by comparison to the Japanese and American influences. So, but the aesthetical inspirations for like me for the Terran Republic was, I'm a huge fan of 80s films, so for me, like, you know, when I think back to Aliens Colonial Marines, like the Aliens Colonial Marines of Aliens, that was a huge inspiration for some of their aesthetic. But I was also a fan of like the Shogunate era kind of style armor of the samurai. So both of those ended up, along with the lore explanation of like, again, a lot of Japanese culture mixing with some like American culture into the Terran Republic's concept. It just felt right to kind of take that Alien Colonial Marines kind of vibe and mix it with like that plated like the exaggerated plated armor and katanas, and kind of bring all that together into a nice swirled mix with the Terran Republic. So yeah, that's like the big thing with the Terran Republic is there a mixture of Japanese culture and American culture, or as American culture as like the old Americana of like the Americana of like soldiery, and, you know,
patriotism. That kind of old school image of, I guess, World War II image, I guess, of America. Do like each other quite a bit, ironically. But yeah, that was part of their inspiration. Unfortunately, that's it for Terran Republic concept art. We didn't get too much done, unfortunately. I guess I'll show you all of them while I'm here, since this is going to be a conversation topic. This right here is the Volk. They're an arachnid dryad kind of species. Aesthetically, I was influenced by a little bit by Legacy of Kain's Soul Reaver, because Raziel, that kind of, you know, blue, like decayed kind of exoskeleton. Well, for this exoskeleton, but for him, like vampiric flesh, and having that misty-eyed look through their helmets. Yeah, these are the Volk. They are a very powerful species in the universe. They're kind of the Volk are the oldest species outside of the Gretsch. Australia? Not really Australia. It was Germany a little bit in there. Anything resembling knights, I inevitably find myself veering toward factions, either knightly, elegant, or a combination of the two. Yes, the first faction and kind of like the poster boy faction of Warglaive Gothic, hold on, let me pull them up, is the Sovereignty. Let me show you the non-knights. These are the Jackals. The Sovereignty, to put it bluntly, are basically vampires. What happened with them, I always try to sum this up in only a couple sentences, but it just doesn't do all the writing I put behind it justice. But to oversimplify what happened to them, their Ark ship landed on a planet that would eventually come to be named Mordred. It was named something else when they first founded it, but they later named it Mordred for several reasons. On the planet, there was a large leech species the size of pythons that would drain a human dry if it attacked you. It was a predator, it was a pest, yada yada yada. Eventually, the humans there eventually began to get really, really sick when a mineral-like rose began to en masse began to pop out of the ground and release a pollinated pheromone, which the human genome wasn't designed to deal with. So no antibodies began to form and people began to die. Again, I'm not doing my own writing justice. I'm really simplifying it. There's so many details I'm leaving out right now. But the gist of it is the humans there got sick. They tried their best to create an antidote to try and wipe out the mineral plant and, you know, avoid it from keep getting people sick. There's a lot there, but eventually, they realized they couldn't create a cure and they couldn't possibly wipe out all the mineral-based flowers, so they turned to genetic alteration. They began rewriting human DNA to hopefully adapt to their environment. And a lot of dead people due to failed experiments later, and eventually that resulted in, I'm trying to use this for example. Eventually, I'll just use this image because I don't have just a normal crypta to showcase to you. That resulted in the crypta. They spliced their DNA with the leeches I mentioned before because they were the only other species on the planet that had even remotely similar genetic sequencing to our own. So the researchers that were, you know, tasked with finding a solution to all this began administering procedures to, you know, splice every remaining survivor of the pandemic's DNA together. So what was once a population of 5 million was struck down to less than 10,000 to 50,000. and they had completely rewritten their DNA. They were still human in basic shape, but now they were faster, they were stronger, they had better visual acuity, better smell, sense of smell, more predatory instincts, sharper vision, and also muscle density was increased immensely. But with all of these advantages and increased lifespan, they went from living 100 years on average to 250. 250 to 300 years is the average lifespan of the average crypta. Again, I'm trying to summarize this best I can. There's so much I wrote. And it's not that I'm having trouble remembering it, it's I'm having trouble condensing it in my head. Like, there's so much with the crypta that it's hard to summarize. One thing I wanted to know is what you're looking at right here. Fast forward in their timeline a lot, and the crypta, this is their Empress. She's a lot older than 250. A huge part, to try and give context to this as best I can, a huge part of the crypta culture that kind of came about is initially after they, survived the pandemic and there was, so little of them left who survived the pandemic. They all kind of had this crossroads that kind of came in their culture. They either were going to go down this deep depression, which is where they started to go, where they were like, oh crap, we're no longer human, we're these monstrous evil beings, like we crave blood, we're designed predators now. Like, there was this level of we've had something robbed of us kind of feel, and the Great Depression that came from that. So they had the option to either fall to depression or embrace what they had become, kind of renounce their humanity, and they inevitably chose option B. The options were be depressed and lose all hope and try and end your race because you think you're an abomination, or accept that it had to happen, you're now better than you were. And that kind of evolved. It started out with just like, oh, we're so glad we're immune now to this sickness. It went from that to way later it became this elitism. Like, the crypta see themselves as the pinnacle of creation. They see themselves as the pinnacle of genetic humanity. And that's why they don't even call themselves humans anymore. They're the crypta. And in the image you're seeing right now, the Empress, I'm not going to go through her whole lore again. It's just too much I'd leave out. Suffice it to say, she's big into eugenics and genetic research and geneticism, and yeah. At some point in the Sovereignty's lore, she and a group of her researchers and scientists created what these guys are. These guys are Grimms. They're the first generation of what's called the Hellsings. Let me pull up the image of a Hellsing. I have several images of Hellsings. This is the first one I'll do. This is a good example of a Hellsing. This is a specific named character in the lore. And this is likewise another good example of a Hellsing in their 3 stages. Hellsings on average are 7'5", unless we count bulwarks, who are pretty much 8 feet tall. The average crypta citizen is about the same size as a normal human. They're just, faster, stronger, better visual acuity, longer lifespan, denser skin, denser muscular. They're just better than us in every way, but look just like us, except for, pale skin and red eyes. But yeah, this is like the average assault Hellsing, which is kind of like their everyday infantry within their army. And this is their general aesthetic. The color of the color of these drapes here in this loincloth, those change based on regiment, but for the most part, this is what all assault Hellsings look like. They all have that bracer. They all have one enlarged pauldron and one to scale pauldron. But yeah. The Helsings were okay, so with the Helsings lore, again, trying to condense it all properly, the Helsings are not crypta that are just genetically altered. The Helsings are clones. They're cloned from artificial DNA mixed with some volunteered crypta DNA from long ago. Generals, soldiers, people who had optimal genetic codes. The Empress took those and took artificial optimized DNA and kind of put them together into like a vat, and then just began cloning from that artificial and real DNA that have been mixed together, and with genetic resequencing, again, major eugenics system. Again, they're obsessed with genetic research and genetic manipulation. But they kind of like mixed and matched between the artificial DNA and the real DNA to create the Helsings. The Helsings are 99% more like are 99% male. There's no reason for that. They weren't really designed that way. It's just how it kind of came out. The gender was not really a thing, but it's just on in the lore. For some reason, they don't really know. Neither the Empress doesn't care one way or the other. They're soldiers. They're super soldiers put on the battlefield that are way stronger than jackals, which are the guys in like trench coats and gas masks that I showed you guys earlier. The Helsings are typically in knightly armor and stuff like that, but with that said, with there being 99% of the time male, there is an anomaly that occurs with the cloning process with Helsings that results in a female being born. There is one female amongst the Helsings every 500 of them that are born, give or take. They're not in the Crypta Society. They don't treat women really any different than men. The only thing that is different about them is women typically have more inane psychic ability, which there are psychics in this universe. There's no magic, really. Like, there's no ethereal force that's conjured up. There's no spells. There's no force lightning. It's telekinesis, and it's mind reading. That's like the big ways that it manifests in this universe. There's really no like sorcery, as we would call it, unless you consider telekinesis and telepathy sorcery. If that counts, then yes, there is low sorcery. But past that, it's pretty much all technology and genetics to some degree. But with the Helsings being artificial clones that are produced in batches of 100, they're quickly processed and raised through. The females, like Melina, is a good example. Melina is... I can't even go through her whole story right now because there's just so much. I'd be doing so little justice to all my own writing by trying to summarize it too much. But suffice it to say, she's the Vanguard. I believe, I gotta double check my notes, but I believe she's second Vanguard captain of the Helsings, and she's an elite frontline fighter. Psychic power is cool though. Yeah, I didn't feel the need to go like full sorcery and shit. It's sci-fi. Like for me, the big thing I love about sci-fi is the scientific or even pseudoscience or even just fake science explanation for things. Like there's rules to it. For me, when you have a magic system, like a magic system, I feel like there's just too many like loose ends with that, and it can go a little too crazy. But in terms of that kind of system, there really isn't any. It's mostly technology that does all the really cool shit. There are psychics who can read minds and move shit with their mind. The most powerful psychics in the lore is the that would be... I only have one of them that's drawn. Would be the Empress of the Sovereignty, which, by the way, I do need to point out that in this, you'll probably notice in this image that this guy, this is a standard crypta. This is not a Helsing. You'll notice how much smaller he is than the Grimms and the Empress. The Empress, after she created the artificial DNA to make the Helsings, she genetically altered her own genome to essentially raise herself to their level. But even before that, she was always lorded over in the history of the sovereignty to basically have always been one of the most top tier psychics in the universe. She can read minds, several minds at once that are surrounding her, and her telekinesis is, to give an idea, at one point in the lore, she captured two admirals and a lower ranked officer from a Terran Republic fleet. And when one of them stood up to confront her, while she had her back turned to him, without moving her arms, without flinching a single muscle, all of the blood, and I mean all of the blood in his body burst out of him. He basically blew up. And the blood formed an orb, which she used to kind of outline the world that they were about to invade. And she kind of just she casually killed the other two just by having their neck snapped, and then having their blood drained. But she then casually proceeded to bring her Helsing generals and her Jackal generals up, and just began to use the blood to kind of make this 3D spherical map of the planet that they were invading. It's cool little the point is she's very scary and very powerful. And I gotta say, the Sovereignty are the poster boy faction of the Warglaive Gothic universe. The Helsings are gonna be the poster boys, because most people are drawn to that knightly, terrifying aesthetic. Let's see. But yeah, just in case you guys need it again, these are normal crypta. This is what the normal crypta army looks like. They wear those suits even on planets that are hospitable, and even if they're against an enemy that isn't using gas attacks. They wear that because the crypta, like traditional vampires, don't do well with sun. It doesn't turn them to ash. They're not killed by the sun. But it's kind of like if you know an albino person, they if they go outside when the sun is out, they will get burnt. The sunburns on them will actually be second degree burns almost. It's kind of like that. The sun has a massive the energy from sun. Mordred, but the reason for that is not because of their genetics. Well, it's partly because of their genetics, but the main reason is because on the planet of Mordred, there is no sun. Not because there's no sun in that solar system, that that wouldn't work. The whole system would just be dead planets. It's more that the entire planet of Mordred is surrounded in this black cloud mucus. It's so thick, getting through it with a ship, the ship will be slowed down by it. It's almost like a net. It's just this very thick cloud that completely covers the whole planet. No sunlight gets in. The planet is heated. That does bring up the question of how is the planet heated? How is there any kind of energy source? Is there plant life? If so, how so? Well, on the planet of Mordred, there are these large towering spires of crystal, which do grow out of the ground, and they contain energy from the planet's core, but they also act kind of like sunstones. where even through that thick cloud, they're able to absorb radiation from the sun and kind of act as a giant heater. So plant life does grow on Mordred. There are animals on Mordred that eat the plant life. There is still the circle of life going on. It's kind of doing it in defiance of like having an actual visible sun. The planet, outside of the crystals, is incredibly dark. Like, there's parts of the planet that don't have those kinds of glowing crystals popping out of the ground that are completely barren and dead. What vehicle is that in the background? That's one of the Sovereignty's mechs. Yeah. That would be controlled by the Hides. The three main divisions of the Crypta's military is the Jekylls, which are kind of like the Army, the Air Force, the Navy. They're like the general military. They cover pretty much all bases. You have the Hides, which are researchers. They're scientists. They also, the Hides are responsible for producing Hellsings. They're responsible for research in primarily genetics, because that's a big focus with their culture. But they also do research into cybernetics and robotics, and in this case, large giant mechs, which they do implement in battle. Yeah, but generally the Jekylls are particularly sensitive to sun, so they cover their entire bodies when fighting off of Mordred. Let's see. I showed you guys the Warborn. Yeah, I can show you guys the Warborn. Hold on. I don't use that one. Hold on. Yeah, there we go. This showcases the Warborn fighting the Hellsings. You'll notice they're basically the same size, more or less. Now, I'm not even gonna hide my inspirations here. Now, where the Sovereignty are very much like the Sovereignty and the Warborn are very much like, I'm a huge fan of classic horror. I like Dracula, I like Frankenstein, I like the Mummy, and I love the Wolfman. Like the long-tailed like background like feud between werewolves and vampires that we've seen in the series like Underworld, and we've also seen in fan fictions, that we've seen in even fucking Twilight. I kind of like that dynamic of like werewolves versus vampires. I've always loved that. And when it came to like interesting ideas, yeah, I had the vampiric idea, which I can't take full credit for. I had another writer at one point working with me who came up with the idea of a world made up of like vampiric people with their DNA spliced with leeches. And I took, and eventually he had to leave the team. The idea is mine, like I own it. Well, I don't own the idea. I own the what do you call it? The execution of the idea. He worked for me, and he was paid for his writing. I hope to bring him back on the project eventually, because it would be nice to have someone else also taking some of the weight off my back when it comes to the writing process. But yeah. So with that though, I did want a vampiric faction, and I made them like one of the big three, one of the big six, I should say. And with them on the other side is space Viking werewolves, who are very, very tough. So this kind of showcases them in their human form. They do fight primarily in their human form. They also fight in werewolf form. As you can tell, their armor is modular. It's meant to stretch out with their transformations. The Warborn are not just werewolves, thankfully. Well, creatively speaking, the in-lore explanation for how they're able to be what they are. The humans that landed on their planet in their Ark ship, the planet that they landed on, Gaia, was incredibly hostile to any life that wasn't naturally there. The planet was completely encased in just a permanent winter. It's a frozen wasteland, and there is vegetation, but there's very little of it. Most of the creatures on the planet are in some way, shape, or form carnivores. That means large wolf-like pack hunting creatures, large bear-like creatures, and etc. Fast forward, humans learned to adapt after a lot of death. They even were able to tame some of the local predators. And then an alien species, not one of the three that I've mentioned, they're not part of one of the other factions, at some point appeared in their history and kidnapped all of the humans on the planet and then genetically spliced their DNA. They didn't leave the planet, they took them to like makeshift encampments. And it's not described in any of their lore or their history what these aliens looked like, but that they spliced their DNA with DNA genetic sequences and codes that they found on their Ark ship. Because their Ark ship that those humans crash-landed with had sample DNAs for animals, presumably to bring back animals from Earth, but have them, come to life on the planet that they're now on. Again, I describe it way better in other places, but it's been so long since I've had to explain it. But that's one image of the Warborn. Here's another. Here's one of Pierce's sketches. Let's see. There's another one. Yeah. Yeah, so these are like the general sketch. These were the original concept sketches of the Warborn. All of the Warborn are pretty much universally. All the Warborn are pretty much universally around 7 foot. They're in their human forms. They're around 7 foot, 7.5 foot tall on average. When they're in their werewolf forms, they're typically bigger. Sometimes that they can increase their size. Like if they're a werewolf, they'll probably increase their size by a whole half foot, if not more. But you have to factor in slouching. If they're a werebear, they'll probably double. That, so a whole another foot bigger, if not 2 feet bigger. If they're a werefox, they'll actually probably shrink a little. There's several other were creatures amongst their culture, other than werewolves. Werewolves are just the most common. Only certain families, like very specific small families amongst their culture, have like the unique genetics of being a werebear or being a werefox or other creatures. So it's pretty much 90% werewolves, 10% everything else. They don't always fight in wolf mode because they lose their minds. That's the downside with transforming into their animal side. They begin losing their sanity. Quite literally. They have this inane aggression when they transform. When they transform, they're initially, and by the way, this isn't a universal thing. Each and every individual amongst their culture handles it differently. Some have this natural inclination to be in their werewolf form and control and keep their mind virtually for weeks. Like they could be transformed for weeks and only start to begin going feral towards the end. Start to lose their human intelligence and their kind of self-awareness. Then there are some who can only be transformed for an hour at most before they begin to go feral. So in their culture, it's kind of like a muscle. It's encouraged to be flexed. Like, you need to transform regularly to increase your control. It's kind of like a technique. But yeah, within their culture, that's why they're not always transformed. And that's why oftentimes they don't go into battle transformed. they only transform when they absolutely need to, when it's either to get out of a bind or they're making one big push at the enemy and they need to make an impact hard. But oftentimes they stick to human form because it's satisfactory. There's a little bit of more honor to it. Like if you're able to achieve the same thing as your transformed brothers as a human, in your more human form, I should say, then it's kind of seen as a more braggable, accomplishment. So when you're in the dining halls with your brothers, you get to, they're bragging about what they did transformed, and then you just slam the mug down and you're like, well, I did all that shit in human form. What? But, yeah, that's the simple explanation of why they're not always transformed. It's a hazard. On the tabletop, there is going to be a form of a morale phase. I'm thinking about calling it the integrity phase, because it's not necessarily just morale. In the case of the Warborn, if you switch it, like, my idea is, like, you'll have, like, your Warborn unit, and you can have their werewolf form, and you can switch them out in the battlefield when you activate their transformation. During that integrity phase, when you roll, you're going to have a disadvantaged roll, because it's going to represent that, like, loss of sanity. So, that's been conceptualized for some of their, how they were going to work on the tabletop. That's pretty much it for the Warborn in terms of concept art. Here's some concept art, more concept art for the Rathan. I know they look very ratty here. This was some earlier concept art where there was a bit of miscommunication between me and Pierce where I said they were kind of skeevy and kind of rat-like. I meant more personality. Although I did actually also, to be fair to him, I used visual examples of the Skaven sometimes. But, there was crossed wires, and they ended up looking way more rat-like in these images. But they are anthropomorphic hyenas. That's what they're supposed to be. It just kind of didn't translate as well with these images. So they look more like Skaven here, that's why. This is not the final concept art. The armor kind of is, but the physical face and ears appearance here is what's wrong. So that's why they look a little off. But the armor's a very good example. This armor kind of represents one of the clans, that being... I haven't had to say his name in forever. It'll come to me back. One of the main clans you're going to come across the most is this clan wearing the green armor, kind of plated. They're known for particularly capturing as many slaves as possible. Yeah, it's been forever since I've had to like list out the clans, so I gotta go through my notes and find them again. But yeah, more or less outside of that, the only one I could share is this one. Yep, Rith, thank you. You see, you remember off the top of your head better than I do. Yep, this is Clan Rith with War Boss Rith. Now, with the Rathan's culture, they pretty much... each clan is named after the War Boss. The War Boss pretty much defines the clan's identity. What their favorite hunting prey is, their favorite objective from raids, when they raid, when they don't raid, their aesthetic. Everything is pretty much defined by the War Boss. And Rith is their War Boss. He is the biggest and the oldest. He's over 400 years old in the current paradigm of the lore. He is it's not known if the Rathan ever die. All that's known is that they don't stop growing, they get bigger, and they technically could live forever. Or they could live like 500 years, and that's when they die. It's not known if they have an old age. Most of them don't make it past 6, 7 years old. So if you're like 10, you're like an old dude. And in the case of specifically Rith, he's over 400 years old. Hey Zarua. Sorry. I'm doing pretty good. How are you, man? Yeah, it's been in a stream that has mostly been talking about this. Yeah, that's pretty much all the concept art I have to share. That's all we were able to get done up till now. So anyway. Sorry, went on a tangent there. Nobody minds. Too much anyway. Yes, that's what I remember. Take a lot of slaves because Rift learned how to make friends from large worlds.
True that.
Same playthrough, you know?
Who's Mr. Spock?
Alright.
Everyone approves of Vampire Waifu.
Yeah. Thought about hiring like I've thought about hiring like an anime style artist to do like a waifu of the Empress. But same time, at the same time, I don't know if Pierce would want that derelict of duty. Oh, I kind of talked my throat out. Remember it's a talking energy. I'll probably finish painting these guys off stream. I mean, we're going for 3.5 hours, and there's only 4 people watching live right now, and I'm about to lose my voice because I just went on a tirade as I always do when WAAAGH is brought up. Because one of these days, hopefully I'll be back working at it and hammering away at WAAAGH and bringing it back. But hopefully soon. Right now I'm waiting on employment. I think I'm going to end the stream there, though. Thank you guys so much for watching. One thing I'll show you guys before you guys go. Just because I have to. This is some terrain. I 3D... everything on here is 3D printed. It's hard to see all of it. If any of it. But everything on here is 3D printed by me. This is some terrain I built for, like, war games. I got a little half cover right here. These little goops are going to be painted to be like a luminescent green color from the pipes. That's really hard to show off it. The camera zoom. Jazarenko how's the day going? Pretty good. I'm just about to call the stream, so yeah, very interesting timing. I know the hell saying she is better. Melina? And I agree. A waifu of her would be nice as well. Damn it, I joined too late again. Damn it, foiled again! Yep, I'm about to lose my voice, so. And plus, you know, I keep getting the little red symbol of connection from OBS, so my internet's being an asshole anyway. Alright, so have a good one, guys. Thank you guys for hanging and chilling during the stream. We got plenty of, we got the base of pretty much all these guys, you know, done. Like we got the green skin and we got the brown of their leather. The rest of it's just, you know, gonna be me wrapping up all the smaller details tonight while I don't know, listen to music or something. But have a good one, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow for FF. Because, you know, I'm gonna try and get in early during one of the non-prime times, and yeah.